Doctor Who is coming back to our screens this week. Who is excited for the new series? I must admit that this is the first time ever with Doctor Who that I've not been excited for the new series. Now, I'm not a person who willingly wants this show to fail, no matter how many times people try and spin it that way. That's just not my style. I really don't want the show to fail at all. I really want it to do really well. However, with everything that has been surrounding the show, the writing, the actors, well, it's nowhere near doing as well as what it could have been. And I'm at the stage now where I think the show really does need to be rested for a while and then brought back with a completely new team and go back to its original format and perhaps scrap some stories that shouldn't have happened, because what we've got at the moment I do not recognise as Doctor Who. No matter how many people have tried to spin it in the past, or like the other day, by saying that I didn't like the series. I've been very clear on where I stood with the last series. The ideas were there, the concepts were there, it was mid at best. And yes, I watched every single story from when RTD returned right through to now. And I've also watched every single story of New Who, starting back 20 years ago, all the way through, right up to Jodie Whittaker, and then, of course, what we have now. Now, nothing that I say when I talk about the series in what seems to be a negative context comes very lightly, because it's really with a heavy heart that I have to say these things about a franchise that I love. I thought that in preparation for the return of the series this week, I would take a look at some of the charts for the ratings and things like that, and for the Christmas special. Because since doing my videos for the last series, I have actually been very, very hot on it with including facts and figures and presenting it to you. We have since then also looked at the Audience Appreciation Index scores, and well, we will be having another look at those as well today. And I would say that this is going to be a stonker of a foray into the past with the viewing figures. Hello and welcome back to Chat About It, Don't Shout About It with me, Rachel, the Queen of the Woke, as crowned by one of my haters, not by myself. We are aiming to make 2K subscribers. Can we do it? Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel, switch on the notification bell so you know I am releasing another video. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed already. I cannot run this channel without you. I cover woke news currently Monday through to Wednesday. Sometimes on a Thursday you may have bonus videos also from me now and then. Every Sunday we always take a look at an old Doctor Who story. I thought that we would have a little bit of fun before we got into the nitty-gritty analytics. The one thing that we don't really seem to talk about much on this channel is the promotion. They have promotion after promotion after promotion for this series. They are going big, just like they did with the previous series. They are milking it. Well, not milking it, but they are trying to go out for everything that they can possibly get. And why not? They've got the money from Disney. It makes total sense. However, I really did not know how the premiere of Doctor Who flew under my radar. Oh, yes, it did. So, as you see here on the screen, we have our Doctor, Ncuti, and our new companion, Farada, and our former companion, Millie Gibson. They are all there, glammed up on the red carpet. This was quite a small event, I think, because this flew completely under my radar as I have already said, and even some major Doctor Who fans who I know perhaps love the show even more than I do. And that's saying something. They didn't even know about this. If you're going for bigger, then you really want to ham up the premiere, wouldn't you? But they just didn't seem to do that this time, unless I was living on another planet. Also, apparently, some billboards are going up. Now, I don't really get any of these in my area that I'm currently in. However, I will be in London soon, so I will let you know if I see any of these billboards on the screen that we have here. I have had some people tell me they think that these billboards are fake. However, this could also be in Wales. Bobby Dazzler says, I was told there was hashtag Doctor Who Series 2 billboards, excuse me, out in the wild. So yeah, I went to investigate, smiley and cool emoji. And that's the billboard. We have also had trailer after trailer after trailer released, and I stopped watching the trailers because what I would like to do with this series is I would like to watch this series with next to no spoilers. And what happens when you release multiple trailers like they have done is that it will lose its mystique, and I would have felt like that I would have watched the entire series already, and that's not really what I want. We've also been told when we're going to get the Robots of Death on Saturday. Now, obviously, we have the streaming platforms, and the streaming platforms will be releasing it earlier to match up with Disney Plus. And there are still terrestrial viewers, though, so the terrestrial viewers only will have to wait, which is not really fair. Now, if you don't know what terrestrial viewing is, it's just for people who don't have access to a streaming service, who pay their BBC license and they prefer to watch it this way. Of course, we do have our TV license and our regular TV. Mine's over here, and the streamer, so we can do whichever we want, I suppose, in most cases for a lot of us. But there are people who don't have access to the iPlayer, and you can see here that Doctor Who is on after Gladiators. It starts at 6:50 and it finishes at 7:35 p.m. and that's on BBC One. And then if you look on ITV1, it's going to be up against Ant and Dec, and that starts at 7 p.m. for Britain's Got Talent. And that is, I believe, going to be the audition stages, and that is generally where the show is at its most popular because it has the most laughable moments in the entire series. Now, I think that they're doing it this way because they want to catch the any potential Britain's Got Talent viewers before they go over to BGT. And what happens then is that I suppose it would inflate the figures a little bit. I know that some people do analyze the drop-off points throughout the story. I'm gonna have to cut that bit and do that again. Wave. I know that some people do look at the entirety of the story and they analyze when viewers tuned in and when they tuned out. I believe it's something that Brendan on the Sense Sphere does. He covers it from time to time, I think. He has better information on things like that more than I do, so I highly recommend checking out his channel for when he gets that information. If he does get that information, I will link his channel below. I could probably do it, but in that regard, I think he does a much better job. Now, of course, the all-important ratings. The ratings last year were not good. So this is how it works in the UK, how we measure our ratings score. We have the terrestrial viewing, and yes, the terrestrial viewing does matter, despite what someone was desperately trying to tell me the other day. The terrestrial viewing does matter because those people who do not have access to streaming service will want to watch it on terrestrial. Yes, okay. It only tells us part of the story, as the Shill Press Radio Times would say, which they only started saying after they got a severe roasting for blaming the weather. But they still count. And then we have something called consolidation, and it is a 7-day plus consolidation. This is where they take into consideration the streaming platforms and perhaps pre-transmission as well. And in this case, it does not count Disney Plus. Disney Plus is a separate entity. It consolidates everything from the BBC iPlayer in the last 7 days. Now, they are supposed to release this on day 8 so that we have immediate access to this information. However, with Doctor Who, they've been notoriously slower than usual. So all of last year, it was released quite a fair few days later, these consolidation figures. So people began to question if those ratings were perhaps inflated, because obviously they didn't release them on time. So it's immediately suspicious. And then we have the 28-day plus consolidation viewing figures as well. And that gives us an indication of how word of mouth works, how people have received the story enough to either go back and watch it again or have heard good things about it and therefore will want to go and watch it for the first time. We also have the Audience Appreciation Index, or AI, which gives us a score of how well received it is. So the streaming viewing figures here in the UK are very meticulous and we get a very detailed breakdown. On the screen here, we have the last series plus all the specials that RTD wrote, and of course his guest writers, and it also details the AI scores, the overnight terrestrial viewing, the 7-day consolidation and the 28-day consolidation. It also includes the audience share breakdown, which Brendan covers a lot more meticulously than I do, as well as the air dates and the story lengths. So it's a very detailed chart, and this chart is much bigger than what you see here on the screen. This chart goes years back, so I could cross-reference this also with any other Jodie Whittaker era if I wanted to. So the overnights, Joy to the World was 4.10 million, Empire of Death, I'm working backwards by the way, 2.25 million, Legend of Ruby Sunday, 2.02, Rogue, 2.11, Dot and Bubble, 2.12, 73 Yards, 2.62, Boom, 2.04, Devil's Cord, 2.42, Space Babies, 2.55, Church on Ruby Road, 4.73. And just to compare this to the specials that came before that, The Giggle, 4.62, Wild Blue Yonder, 4.83, and The Star Beast, 5.08. So these figures are notoriously low. That's not good. Terrestrial viewing figures, the overnights for the specials were consistently a lot better than the entire series for Ncuti. What the BBC will be looking for is a raise in the overnight terrestrial viewings, and they'll probably cross-reference it with some other things that are on air for the overnight terrestrials, and they will look at, of course, naturally their public enemy number 1, which will be the ITV1, specifically Britain's Got Talent. They will be paying very, very close attention to that. For the 7-day consolidations, Joy to the World 5.91, Empire of Death 3.69, Legend of Ruby Sunday 3.50, Rogue 3.52, Dot and Bubble 3.38, 73 Yards 4.06, Boom 3.58, Devil's Call 3.91, Space Babies 4.01, Church on Ruby Road 7.49, and to again cross-reference with the previous specials, The Giggle 6.85, Wild Blue Yonder 7.14, The Star Beast is 7.61. Now, if people had really dug the last series, and by that I mean really liked it, then those scores would be consistently higher. We will get to Joy to the World because it is the Christmas Day special, but it's a little bit different because it had big competition, so there were other factors surrounding those scores. So for the 28th day, Joy to the World 6.38, Empire of Death 3.92, Legend of Ruby Sunday 3.83, Rogue 3.89, Dot and Bubble 3.82, 73 Yards 4.63, Boom 4.21, The Devil's Court 4.59, Space Babies 4.43, Church on Ruby Road 8 million. And then cross-reference again, The Giggle 7.91, Wild Blue Yonder 8.30, The Star Beast 8.36. So again, there isn't really what I would deem for the series that Ncuti did a massive increase in the ratings scores. We should see those much more through the roof, or perhaps even closer to the 3 specials that RTD wrote when he came back. That's what we should be seeing. And then, of course, we've got the audience appreciation index figures. Joy to the World, 76. Empire of Death, 80. The Legend of Ruby Sunday, 81. Rogue, 77. Dot and Bubble, 77. 73 Yards, 77. Gosh, that was a mouthful. Boom, 78. The Devil's Cord, 77. Space Babies, 75. The Church on Ruby Road, 82. The Giggle, 85. Wild Blue Yonder, 83. The Star Beast, 84. So 2 out of the 8 stories in the main series for last year only received a high score. The rest were below 80, and that's not really theoretically what the BBC would be aiming for. At least 3/4 of those stories should be above 80. You look at the specials of the first 4, and they all score above 80. And so that means they were pretty well received within the context of the AI score. And just to show you that I am not making any of this up, I have here the breakdown from Doctor Who TV for the 2024 series from episode 1 right through to the special. As you can see, for the last series last year, this is exactly how I reported it to you. It's just much more of a simple chart. If you want any of their viewing figures in a simplified format, Doctor Who TV has loads of them. And if you do not want to use Doctor Who TV, you can also access the Barb. And with the Barb, you can get the weekly top shows. And so I went in and I found the information that I needed for the Doctor Who Christmas special. And Doctor Who, I would say, is quite often promoted as event TV. However, it used to be event TV. Now I believe it is losing its way. Joy to the World, last year on Christmas Day, that's when it aired. If you go to the Barb website, you can look back and find more information if you would want it. But I'm just pulling out this specific data. However, we get some returns last year, and these are what we would perhaps consider to be epic returns. So we had Gavin and Stacey, and then we had Wallace and Gromit. And the Wallace and Gromit one was really, really important because it was the first major one that they recorded, because the actor, unfortunately, original actor for Wallace, unfortunately passed away, so they temporarily did not make any movies. So this was the first one with the new voice actor for Wallace. So that was really, really poignant, that one. And we had Outnumbered. So those 3 programs are event programs, and that meant it was game on for Doctor Who. This graph shows how it looks visually, but I also have the charting placement for it. There we go. As you can see, it did not beat any of the event broadcasts. So Gavin and Stacey was at number 1, and it had 19 million plus viewers. Wallace and Gromit was at number 2 with 16 plus million viewers. Call the Midwife, which is one that we've got currently on air anyway, was 7 plus million, and then the other event TV was outnumbered and it got 7 plus million, and then the other special for Call the Midwife, which was Boxing Day, got 6.5 million, and then in at number 6 is Doctor Who with its 5.9 million. So Doctor Who doesn't really seem to be having that pull that it used to have, and this is really one of the reasons why I think it's time for the show to rest and have new creatives come in and bring the show back to the format that it was in. I think I would like them to start focusing on reintroducing the cliffhanger, sort of Colin Baker format where they did 2-parters and had cliffhangers, or something along those lines. So the BBC also released their audit last year or earlier on in the year. I can't quite remember when they released it now, and they said that Doctor Who, along with several other franchise, was the big money spinner last year. No, I do not have any data to say what it was that they made on the Doctor Who franchise and whether or not it came specifically from the sales of classic, because they're constantly doing stuff with the classic series, or if that had anything to do with the new series. This data naturally does not include the cash injection from Disney. Now, we will come to Disney in just a moment. However, Russell T Davies did say that the BBC could do the Doctor Who series by itself, but as a scaled back version of it. My question is, would that be true? And the reason why I ask if that were true is because if they could do a scaled back version, why do they desperately need an injection of cash from a streamer service? Now, obviously, they would be interested in going global, so that does help. There's all of that comes into it. I haven't forgotten that. I am aware of it. But if it is such a big money spinner for them, then surely they could use that cash to re-inject it into the new stuff. However, they won't do that because I have a sneaking suspicion that classic is their biggest money spinner. So they won't want to do that. They want to put it back into the classic series. And this is why they want the money from a streamer. The BBC's biggest cash flow is the TV license. That TV license would be used to pay for Doctor Who and other programs, naturally. But a lot of people have been cancelling their TV licenses. So even though RTD is saying the money is there and whatnot, and the BBC are telling us that Doctor Who is the biggest money spinner, I don't have reason to believe that they can afford to keep producing it without the extra cash injection. So if Disney were to pull out, then they would have to find another streaming service in order to get that money, or the show will just have to fizzle out and we'll go into some more wilderness years. If you would like to view the audit or anything else that I have provided in this video, please go to the description below. Every single link will be there. Now, you're probably wondering what the point was going through all these viewing figures. Well, the BBC rely on these viewing figures, and they also rely on what their competition is getting viewing wise as well. They use these viewing figures to get accurate data, and they will know within a few weeks whether or not they are going to recommission a show for the following year. Disney will probably also need to know this information because they will want to know if it is a money spinner. And Disney are a big powerhouse company, and to them, what is more important is not the viewer, it's the cash. Disney, though, are not as forthcoming with their streaming numbers, or well, in this case, the hours streamed, because I believe that is what they base it on. However, they did release this press statement the other day, and this made up a part of a bigger statement, but I've just taken this select part. About Doctor Who, quintessentially British Doctor Who is one of the longest running action adventure television series in the world, with legions of fans across the globe since it launched by the BBC in 1963. Ncuti Gatwa took on the role of the 15th Doctor in The Church on Ruby Road. Doctor Who remains one of the most watched programmes on iPlayer and was a top 5 series on Disney Plus globally every week it aired, as well as being the BBC's top drama for under 35s this year, making it one of the biggest programmes for the demographic across all streamers and broadcasters. I've also just included the YouGov survey below that, which I covered in another video. Be sure to check that one out. But as you can see, well, is it popular for the under 35s? I don't know, but that's what they have said. I did try to look up the statistics for what they were talking about with the streaming results for Doctor Who. I couldn't find it anywhere. And Disney did not release that evidence. I don't think I've seen evidence released by Disney whatsoever to back up what they have said. It would be nice to have that, but they haven't provided it. I do have access to a Flix Patrol website. However, in this case, I am not paying $49 to go back and see if that information is on Flix Patrol. I do have a friend, though, who has told me that when this series first went into the streaming service for that week, each story, it would chart very briefly, but then drop off either within a few hours or the next day. So it wasn't sticking around according to what my friend was saying. And just for the record, my friend is in the USA and is a big fan of Doctor Who, so she will be watching it on Disney Plus. So therefore, she will see perhaps things that I don't see. And now that I think about it, I may even reactivate my Disney Plus account just so that I can get access to that immediate data from that site for the next series. The Nielsen figures are the equivalent to our Barb here in the UK. This is what you've got on the screen right now, the Nielsen figures. This would be what I would consider to be the most telling about the streaming figures. Now, I don't have the Nielsen score for Doctor Who for last year. I decided to access the Nielsen for this video because I wanted to show you something. So if you would like to actually see anything that I have done about the Nielsen figures with regards to Doctor Who, I have plenty of Doctor Who ratings videos for you that you can go and look at in one of the Doctor Who playlists. I cover the Nielsen's there. And to be clear, I didn't see it chart once on the Nielsen charts. The only thing I saw, and you can see it on here as well, consistently charting in the Nielsen charts, is Bluey. That is the only thing I saw consistently throughout the entire series last year. And it's still there now. It's at number 6. And, well, we all know the reason why Disney invested in Doctor Who in the first place was because they could not have the streaming rights for Bluey unless they injected the cash into the Doctor Who IP as well. That was the deal. And Disney now have the rights to Bluey, at least up until the end of this year, as far as I'm aware. because they announced a Bluey movie. And I also have some data from Flix Patrol. Now, like I said, I'm not going to go and pay $49, okay, to go and get some old data from Flix Patrol. I do also cover Flix Patrol in my other videos about ratings. I'm pulling this one up because I want to show you here. You can see from this chart that, well, no, it's not very common to have many new things listed on the chart, and that was also something that I consistently saw throughout last year when I was looking at the Flix Patrol website. Bluey is still charting. It's there at number 8, and we also have Grey's Anatomy, we have The Simpsons, we have Malcolm in the Middle, we have Desperate Housewives. People are going back and watching old content on these streaming platforms, and I know that's true because when I access BBC iPlayer or a streaming platform that is not the BBC iPlayer, I tend to go for everything that is older. I'm not always interested in the newer stuff. Disney will be waiting to see how the series performs in order to make a decision as to whether or not they are going to provide more funding for Doctor Who. I've heard rumours, and this is only rumours, I want to be clear on that they are not pleased with Russell T Davies or Ncuti, and they want them gone. And I have a theory and reason to believe that RTD has definitely moved on because he's going to work on that show Tiptoe, and that's going to take up a lot of his time because he will be involved with the casting and things like that. And of course, that wouldn't be fair on them to wait around either. They, no matter what I think of them and how I criticize them, they are entitled to work, and that's absolutely fine. And I certainly wouldn't be waiting around for the answer either. I would be getting on with the next big project that I could find if it were me. But also, if I were Disney, I would keep them hanging around as well. However, if I were the BBC, I would also say to Disney, you still haven't given us an answer. So we need an answer by this date, or we will be pulling out and pulling your rights to Bluey. I can't see the BBC continuing with Doctor Who unless they have a massive wad of cash from a streaming service, and if they do, it would be a very pulled back version without the streaming service. If Disney were to pull out, then Doctor Who will very much be walking on eggshells. They will be on very thin ice, and the reason why I say that is because the viewing figures that they are getting here in the UK, and this is why the viewing figures are very important at this stage: overnight terrestrial, 7-day plus, 28-day plus consolidation, and the AI scores. These scores and ratings will be what the BBC will base their final decision on should Disney pull out, and no other streaming service will be interested in Doctor Who. Sorry, no other streaming service are interested in Doctor Who if they find that out, okay? They would need those figures, I believe, on the 7-day plus viewing to go to at least 6 million plus before they make a decision. Now, some of you may say, but Rachel, the soaps in this case would be irrelevant. The soaps will stay on the air. They can pull in 2 million viewers, maybe 4 million viewers, but that's because they are so cheap and they are easy to produce. If they needed to save money on the soaps, then all they would need to do is perhaps axe a couple of episodes per week for each soap, or maybe one for each soap. Doctor Who can't afford to do that. They have special effects, they've got alien costumes, and they're also revamping parts of the classic series. If they do not get that cash injection, then I don't think the BBC would be able to fund it to its fullest extent that we could possibly have it. And the BBC will want it at its fullest extent. I'm not waiting for the show's demise, to be clear, okay? I don't want it cancelled, but I just want it to be better. Just looking at the data though, I don't think the BBC will be able to justify funding it with taxpayers' money alone this time around. Please remember though that this is just a hypothesis. I'm not saying it will be cancelled. There's no video tomorrow as I will be at an event, so I decided to just take a little break from tomorrow. However, for the next few weeks, maybe 8 weeks, there will be a slight shift in the amount of videos that I will release, and I'm hoping to bring back Keep It Positive as well soon. So let me know what you think. Chat about it, don't chat about it. Like, share, subscribe to the channel, switch on the notification bell so that you know I am releasing another video. And thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.